Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Laura and I like to craft stuff. Still on my quilting kick. I bought recently a pattern by Elizabeth Hartman, specifically dinosaurs. I have known about this pattern and I've seen it everywhere for years and years, and it was always on my want list, my bucket list of crafts, if you will, but I finally got around to getting it. And my plan was, I was thinking, if you look at the little guys, I just was thinking it would be great to use scraps for this. To use up scraps and make it scrappy. So I did not buy any fabric specifically for the dinosaurs. I did buy background fabric. So my plan is to use my purples. This is my bin of purple fabrics. I plan on using mostly purples for the dinosaurs, and then because I want my dinosaurs to be purple, I was thinking there was a sale at Joann's, so when I went, I actually wound up getting a whole bunch of different fabrics, but I got this to be the background. I think it's going to be super cute. I know that this is a very bright color, but I think that the purples will bring it down and balance it out. So yeah, that is my plan. Starting with this pattern, one of the first things it has you do is just pre-cut all of the fabrics, and so I did already sneak peek look at it, and it's very detailed, but I'm a little bit concerned about how I'm going to process it, cutting all the bits with using scrap fabrics. So I need to figure out, like, my dinosaur horns, if they're going to be purples or if they're going to be a different color. And the plants, are they going to be purple or are they going to be a different color? I'm thinking about making the plants dark green because I do have a lot of dark green still. So yeah, that's where we're at. Time to get to work. All right. Thank you everyone who's been joining me in this video and in last videos, and have been subscribing to my channel. Just to give you a heads up, I try to post every other Tuesday. Like and subscribe if you feel like it. You don't have to. Here I am cutting up the background strips, by the way. Okay, I'm checking in. I have cut up my borders and my backgrounds. She, in her pattern, requests that you separate them into bins. Now, I don't have a lot of bins or a lot of space, and so I just used these bags, Ziploc bags. There we go. And I think it works. It is nice having these all separated, especially since there's a lot of cuts. For the rest of the fabric, she does technically have cuts for the other fabrics in the earlier part, but I'm going to the actual blocks to cut based off of the final size because I'm using scrap fabrics, and so I'm not going to have a full width of fabric to cut, but I should have fabrics enough to cover the blocks, especially since the cuts are much smaller than I was expecting, which is good. I'm excited. For the vines and the other little plant matter, I'm using dark green fabrics, or the green fabrics, but I'm running low on actual large enough fabric pieces. So for the vines, I was thinking of using the two leftover blues that I had from a fabric pack, leftovers from a fabric pack, as the center of the vine, since that needs to be actually quite long. It seems to be working out all right. Luckily she has the vine and the plant matter blocks early enough that I think it's a good tester before you get into the actual dinosaurs. And so I'm hoping that the dinosaurs will be just as simple as these have been to cut out, and easy enough with the fabrics that I have that I don't have to go get more. That's the whole goal. I don't have to get more fabrics. Yeah, all right. Well, I need to get back to work. I do want to jump in. I'm not sure how much of the process, especially the cutting, I will be filming because it's hot out and I don't want to turn on my light. It's on right now. I'm going to turn it back off when I'm finished with this. I swear I'm not cutting totally in the dark, just not with the big overhead light. It's too hot. It's too hot for that. All right, back to work. Okay, I am checking in on my progress. This bin here has all of my cuts sectioned out. I originally wrote background and then I just decided to put all of them in there. I mean, it works. So I have my T-Rex and my Brachiosaurus. So in order to make the blocks, now that everything's cut out, I actually need to start by making the vines, the fern, and the cicade blocks, because those get incorporated into some of the dinosaur like final layouts. So like this Brachiosaurus has a vine with it as the final block, and so I need all of these plants to be done first before I can get started on the dinosaurs. So that's what we're gonna do. And of course I've got, you know, the instructions that I need to follow. I just need to follow it step by step and not read too far ahead, because that can sometimes confuse things. So back to work. So here I am cutting the background strips into smaller pieces per the instructions in the booklet. Now, because I bought this pattern and it's not my pattern, I'm not going to be able to show you all the full details. She didn't really specify what could be shown. Like, some patterns I've used, which is good, but still, I believe there is some kind of like copyright. I will have the pattern and where I bought it linked below. I know that this is an older pattern, so at this point, you may only be able to get it used. I'm not sure, because I think that I got it on sale. I got it from the Fat Quarter shop. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. Here I am ironing some of the pieces. So if I could go back in time, I wish that I had actually read more of the instructions instead of just going by the pictures, because in the instructions she does give final measurements for certain blocks, and I didn't check those final measurements. So spoilers, my blocks were not evenly sized. But that being said, overall, I do like my finished project, and I enjoyed working on this. So she starts out having you do the plant matter, because the plant matter is going to be a part of the dinosaurs. The issue, I'm not sure if this is recommended for like beginners, because a lot of these cuts were super small. So we're talking like 1 inch, 1.5 inch. And I'm personally not used to sewing that small in a precise manner. And you can even see here, some of the things are not correctly aligned. But that's okay. I am actually curious about trying this pattern in like a year from today to see if I could do a better job and like see my progress. That being said, even though things got wonky, it's still quite cute, and you can still clearly see the designs that were intended, I guess. Overall, following the pattern book was actually really easy once you got into it and once you started working with it. Especially because of the picture process steps. It was almost like an IKEA catalog in a way, or instructions rather. All right, checking in. I have all of my plants done. They're over in that corner. And now with all of those done, I can actually get started on my dinosaur blocks. And so the first one up in line is the Brachiosaurus. So I have all of the cuts for out of scrap fabric for the actual dinosaur body, but I need to cut up the background fabric. So I need to cut those into their specific sizes. And then it'll be sewing. She has, on the next page, like, it's broken down into different sections, so I'll probably be doing it in those sections. I'm just going to follow the instructions as best as I can, as best as I'm willing to. While I'm going through this, one of the things that I had noticed was that because I was putting them all in the bags, I don't actually know specifically which piece is what piece lettered as, I guess, because they're all lettered. But I'm hoping that when it comes down to it, I'll measure it and I'll be able to find the right pieces, so it won't be too frustrating. But yeah, this is the first dinosaur, and there are a lot of dinosaurs to go, so I should get to work. All right. So the nice thing about all of the patterns, and I have to say, and this is why I recommend buying the pattern, she put a lot of work into creating this patterns. I've made like crochet patterns in the past, and it is a pain in the behind. It is a pain to make, because every time you do a step, you have to stop and take notes of the sizes and whatever. She managed to make these blocks without really duplicating sizes of the pieces. And when it was like a common piece where it was the same size and used in different areas of the same block, she just doubled up on the quantities that you needed for that piece, but it was still lettered as like one piece, which made it very easy when you went to try to find the pieces you were looking for in order to make the certain combinations that eventually make up the block. And that's what I'm ironing right now, is a whole bunch of chained pieces, basically. I did it in sections and I did it in batches, and then ironed them and then sewed those pieces together and then ironed that. And it was, in that aspect, very easy to use, and the pattern was really easy to understand. So another thing, if I were to go back in time, I would not recommend this pattern if, like, for scrap projects. I would not recommend this pattern for scraps unless your scraps are like a yard or something, like you have a full piece of fabric. The trouble I ran into was how specific the pattern was regarding color placement for the dinosaurs, and the fact that my scraps were limited to being already in bits and pieces. And so I was working with trying to find large enough pieces of purple fabric that would work with the dinosaur. And that was where some of the troubles also came in. So you'll notice that this Brachiosaurus, which I think the Brachiosaurus is my favorite out of all of the blocks, it's made up of different purples. In other dinosaurs that are going to be coming up, there are certain like details, including shadows and color differentiations, that are hard to see because I just didn't have enough or fabrics that were large enough pieces. And so that's why I would not recommend doing this in scraps again. I managed to make it work, but if I could do it again, and I probably will do this pattern again, I may just get some kind of either fabric pack or pick out some fabrics myself to make sure that I have enough. For the eyes and the mouths of the dinosaurs, we were asked to get and use black fabrics in the pattern, but I decided to pull out some stripy fabric and use that instead, and so it wound up giving some cool effects. Not just stripy fabric, but I think one had like stripes of a pattern across. I'm sure you all know what kind of fabric I'm talking about. So the eyes and the mouths wound up looking interesting. I think my favorite was the T-Rex because it looks directional. It looks like actual eyeballs, like he's looking like there's maybe eyelids or something. Even though I know birdies don't have eyelids. Because I'm not sure if you're aware, but technically they've discovered that dinosaurs are more closely related to chickens. One of the other things I wanted to do with this quilt and this pattern, and why I chose it, is because I did actually want to challenge myself. I've been working on half square triangle quilts, and they have been a lot of fun. But at this point, I have needed to challenge myself a little bit, so that's what I did with this quilt. And it definitely, was more of a challenge than I think I even realized, because as I'm going through the blocks, I'm like, oh, these are looking great. They'll just trim down, whatever. I'm thinking that there's a whole bunch of borders that we're going to be putting around all the dinosaurs. And so, yeah, I should have measured my final blocks, man. C'est la vie. C'est la vie. But yes, I did use the chain method, and that is where you just keep sewing all your pieces without cutting in between. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that as well. This was also the first project I got to use my new foot, and I actually wonder if maybe that was also part of the issue, because I was so used to using my other foot and adjusting for space. But not only that, the foot that I was using, the new foot that I have, has this little ledge, which is awesome. If your cuts are perfect and everything's aligned, you can put it against the edge that drops down from the foot and it doesn't move. But if anything's misaligned, it can make things worse, I discovered. Especially since I don't always trim off fabric ends. I'm used to just being able to, manually adjust in my sewing where I'm sewing to make up for the inaccuracies. When I discovered that I was having issues with large enough fabric scraps for the bodies of the dinosaurs, I set aside some of the purple fabrics that were from a button-up shirt that I'd gotten from Goodwill that just didn't look good on me. I set that aside to be used for the Stegosaurus because I felt like that one, out of all of them, needed to be one color to really see the spikes on the back, because I was worried that having it a modeling of purples would distract from that. Unfortunately, doing that did kind of sacrifice my Triceratops a little bit, which is frustrating. I mean, I guess I could have figured something else out or used a lighter fabric for the Triceratops's, I don't know what it's called, actually. The little, collar around its head. What on earth would you call that? You know what I'm talking about. You'll see it because I'm ironing my bits for the Triceratops right now. The other issue was I think that my fabric choice for the horns, which should have been white, I chose light teal because I chose teal for the Stegosaurus's back spikes, but I think there wasn't enough contrast between the background color and the purple. It kind of washes out in the far away. I mean, you can see them, but it does wash out. I wonder if maybe white, I should have just gone with white or a really light purple maybe. or done the darker teal, but done a very light purple for the head of the Triceratops. All of those options would have worked. And that's the little like collar thing, hair, solid bits of the Triceratops. I don't know what it's called. What the thing that frames its face, man. It's not hair, because they're chickens. So here you can also see what I mean by the mouth and the eyes. So the fabric I used for the Triceratops had strips of flowers. And I kind of like the way that it looks, but I also kind of don't, because it gets lost with all the other fabrics that are going on with the head. At least for the eyeball, I think it works for the mouth, but not necessarily for the eye. But you live and you learn, I guess. So once I figured out that my dinosaurs weren't the same sizes all around, and I was having issues putting the final large blocks together, I decided to start filling in gaps with more of the background pieces. So originally, the dinosaurs get added together into kind of larger blocks, and then those get added together into top and bottom, and then you add the top and the bottom together, and there are strips of the background fabric between each steps. Well, because it wasn't lining up, I was cutting bits off to make it fit. However, there got to a point where if I was going to do that, it would no longer just be tails or plant matter, it would be limbs and heads. And I worked really hard on these, so even though they were wonky, I didn't really want to cut off any heads or limbs. So that was when I began adding background pieces. And I think that I wish I had done that when in the beginning. If I hadn't gone back in time from the beginning, and I had only gone back in time to the final layout, I would have added strips of background fabric to then cut down, rather than cutting off tails and even plant matter, because when you get close up, you can kind of see. Now, all of this I'm describing is, I don't actually show this on camera, because at the point that I figured it out, which is shortly after this ironing actually, that there was going to be a big issue. I got very frustrated because I'm in the final stretch of finishing this quilt and getting all the footage for the video, and I'm just so tired. And then here it comes, the problems. And I really should have just taken a moment and got some more background strips and added. As you can see with the Brachiosaurus, there's an extra strip to the right of that Brachiosaurus. That is an added strip. And I could have done it to the left of the Triceratops, and I should have for the Stegosauruses. But again, c'est la vie. We, in a year from now, we'll see if my skills have progressed at all, if I can maybe make it a little bit more precisely. I mean, precision's not the end-all be-all. And to be honest, this quilt is probably for me, because I love it. I do love it, the final result, because far away, they all still look like dinosaurs. Which was the point. I love dinosaurs. And here it is, the final result. Now there is a big gap at the top right of the quilt where I've added extra strips to save the heads of the Stegosaurus and the Brachiosaurus that are down on the bottom. I did that with a few of the bottom blocks. There are some areas on the top where you can see tails are cut off. Again, I really think that some of these issues would have been fixed if I had just added more of the background. That being said, overall, I really like this quilt. I really like the colors. I love the Stegosauruses with the teal spikes. I love the Brachiosauruses. This was really fun and easy to follow, and if you are maybe more experienced of a quilter than me, give it a try. If you haven't already. Have you done this quilt? Let me know. I really did ultimately enjoy this. It was fun. It was a challenge. And I do like this quilt quite a lot. I'm thinking of using a dark green binding and either a dark green or a purple backing. I think that those would look really, really cute. Thank you all so much for joining me in this week's quilt. Thank you to everyone who's recently subscribed. I really do greatly appreciate you guys willing to join me in my sewing journey. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll have another video in a couple of weeks, but it'll probably be a lot easier on my brain than this one, because I think I need a break. And then, who knows? And then it's up in the air. Okay, thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!